So my name is Anthony Bartolacci, and I'm the Chief Strategy Officer at SensorTower. And today, I will be doing an overview on the state of mobile. Now, I've been at SensorTower for 8 years, and I can say literally every day our goal is to cover the state of mobile. But this moment in time is extra fortuitous because we had our flagship State of Mobile 2025 report drop just last week. So as a quick plug, anybody who wants to find the content that's in my speech over the next 10 minutes can go download that report. It's at sensortower.com. It's 100 pages. It's like 1,500 charts and graphs, covers dozens of categories and countries. It's not like a beach read, but it is a really easy way to manipulate tons of insights and analysis. So go check that out. The other thing I want to flag is for people who've been in this industry for a while, you probably know State of Mobile as a data AI report. And for those who are like real OGs, you probably know it as an App Annie report. So just to catch everybody up, in 2024, SensorTower acquired Data AI, formerly known as App Annie. We've brought the two companies together. We've done a ton of integration on the mobile front. This awesome report really is a testament to our marketing and insights teams who work together to keep a lot of the material that people love about State of Mobile, also to update it for the SensorTower data suite and a lot of the unique data points that we're able to cover, not just across mobile, but also across digital advertising. So with that, let's get into some of the insights from the report. OK, so a couple things I want to point out just at a macro level about the year that was in 2024. The first thing to call out is in-app purchase revenue in 24 across Apple and Google surpassed the $150 billion mark, growing about 13% year over year. So what a barrier to cross. And that was the result of over 4 trillion hours across consumers globally of mobile app engagement. I swear I was only 1 to 2% of that last year, but you can see the average user about 3.5 hours a day. I have to imagine a lot of people in this room are over that. I don't need to see anybody raise their hands. But clearly, mobile had a really terrific year in 2024. We saw great performance from legacy apps that have been very successful before. We also saw new categories and apps enter the market. Now, I want to break down app ecosystem performance with both non-games and games. So the first thing we want to talk about is what happened in non-gaming. So in terms of revenue, non-gaming has always sort of been a little bit of a laggard. There's a couple of reasons for that, but one of them, there's certain types of purchases, e-commerce, food delivery, ride sharing, that are just not picked up by Apple and Google, so it's at a little bit of a counting disadvantage. But also, I think it took this category, this quite large category of apps, a little bit of time to find its footing as to monetization strategies and ways for users to make transactions through the App Store. But non-games are catching up with really great speed. So as you can see here, we had 25% year-over-year growth in non-gaming apps, contributing almost 14 billion in new revenue. So that's incredibly impressive. You can see the total number, almost 70 billion in revenue across Apple and Google globally on non-games. So this is growing very fast. What's also cool to note here is that growth is coming from everywhere. So it's not just AI, it's not just entertainment. Yes, some categories that are bigger are contributing more of the dollar growth than others. But everyone is seeing a boost, whether it's productivity, whether it's lifestyle and dating. There is growth everywhere in this category. So some of it is the emergence of new types of apps. Some of it is new types of monetization strategies, as I said, like subscription tiers that are allowing users to transact over the app stores. What I also wanted to point out is if this growth rate keeps up, if we're back here talking in 2026, we may actually be able to say that non-gaming revenue is now a bigger driver of total digital spend or total mobile spend than gaming revenue, which seems crazy if I were to say that a couple years ago. So flipping to the gaming part of the mobile app ecosystem, I know non-gaming had a tremendous year with 25% growth, but I don't want to downplay what we saw in mobile gaming because it was also a very successful year. Total growth percentage up 4%. I mean, not nothing to throw a parade about if you're just looking at that number, but contextually, it really was a bounce back year. So gaming had a ton of pull forward from the pandemic years, where the gaming category from a revenue perspective grew like a weed. Then it had 2 years of declining growth as users sort of went back to their regular life, and some of that growth was unsustainable. But in 2024, we actually did see a return to positive growth, which is really good for the category. I think Japan was a particular headwind, down about 7%, but emerging markets were still seeing really stellar growth in the gaming category. So gaming, although doesn't quite have the eye-popping growth line of non-gaming apps, still a bounce-back year. Again, wanted to touch upon some trends that we're seeing in gaming that I think are really interesting. So like other parts of everybody's, I think, digital and entertainment footprint, we are seeing some consolidation around legacy properties. So this stat and these charts, which if you can't take pictures of them right now, they are in the report. What they're showing is in the United States, out of the top 1,000 games by downloads, how many are from games that were released in that calendar year? Basically measuring how hard is it to launch a successful game. You can see several years ago, about 25% of that top 1,000 was from games launched in the year. But if you fast forward to last year, that number was right around 100. So that's showing that it's really harder to launch a game that is an immediate success. There are a lot of reasons for that. We are seeing some weakness in hyper-casual. We just have more years of these games being in the marketplace, so users have already kind of found the games that they want to play, so it's harder to make noise and get users onto a new platform. But definitely something to be aware of. Now, if we look at sort of the same charts from a revenue perspective, you could see that the trend is not as dramatic. It's always been a little bit harder to crack the top 1,000 in the US from a revenue perspective for a recently launched game. But what you can see in the chart to the bottom left is actually that the legacy games, not only are they kind of keeping their stranglehold on consumer engagement, they're unlocking new ways for users to spend in those games. So that's really exciting, is that some of these legacy properties that have hundreds of millions of users are not just kind of resting on their laurels, but they're finding new ways to monetize, new ways to keep those users engaged. One other, just kind of switching gears to a topic that I think is on a lot of people's mind, it's time spent in mobile. Time spent for the year, as I said, was over 4 trillion. But there really was a difference between emerging markets and some more mature markets and how that broke out. So you could see India, for instance, time spent on mobile devices was up double digits. In the US, actually, it was down a shade, which may be a surprise to some people. This was the first year in SensorTower covering this metric that we've actually seen a dip in total time spent on mobile. Now, what was the driver of that? You can see very clearly. It's social media use in emerging markets versus developed markets. Now, I don't want to be bearish on social media because it's still, users in the US or the UK are still on social media apps for about an hour and a half a day. So it could just truly be saturation. But we are starting to see a little bit of a pullback, which will be an interesting trend to track. Another area that we highlighted in our report is that actually one category of apps that's seeing growth is apps that connect users to in-person experiences. So apps are being savvier at understanding people want to be outside, they want to be in the real world. How do I develop a service that enhances those experiences? Really quickly, just because it's been top of mind, I wanted to take a quick TikTok break. Obviously, TikTok has been in the news every day for the last couple of weeks. Will they, won't they? It's a great question of our time. TikTok, just to sort of set the stage, 88 hours of consumer engagement in the US every day. It makes up 8% of the digital advertising market. So understanding the longevity of TikTok and if it's going to be able to operate in the United States is top of mind for all of our customers, whether it's investors or brands or gamers, digital first. Everybody wants to know what's going on TikTok, and if TikTok were to go away, where does that engagement go? So you can see right now who the winners and losers might be. Just in the 2 days that TikTok was off the App Store, SensorTower's panel was showing that those users were on Instagram more, were on YouTube more. And then we also have the ability to gauge where are those brands going to fulfill their advertisements. So this story, I know TikTok is back on the App Store, but if any of you are interested as to where those brand advertisements and where those hours of consumer engagement might go, please talk to us at SensorTower. AI, I think I'm contractually obligated to talk about AI. So AI chatbots obviously had themselves a year in 2024. I'm sure a lot of people are speculating that this whole presentation was done with AI. I want to assure you it was not. We did this the old-fashioned way. I asked the Insights team to put this together. But then I made some of those little comments in the margins, so I think that was really helpful. But AI chatbots, you can see being a big contributor to what was going on in non-gaming in 2024. In the State of Mobile report, we have a full breakout on what's happening in AI. Just kind of highlighting some of the bigger contributors to that AI in 24. Of course, ChatGPT was a huge one from a download and revenue standpoint. This chart above me will show ChatGPT, I think it was the third fastest app to reach 50 million monthly active users. So clearly had a very fast adoption curve. All the more impressive because it came out on iOS before it did Google. So it really took hold of consumers' attention in 24. AI, just because the news cycle never stops, we have another entrant into the category, DeepSeek. So just to put a little context around the last couple weeks of the DeepSeek app versus some of the other AI apps by legacy technology players like Google, like Microsoft, you can see that with about 500,000 installs to date, it's still outperforming the launch of a lot of those AI properties, albeit it's only about a third of the early days of ChatGPT. So yes, it's number one on the stores. It is becoming incredibly popular, but it's not quite at the level that ChatGPT was last year. Last point, because I know we're kind of moving along. I wanted to flag that AI, in terms of chatbot, clearly that was a 2024 trend. But what we're starting to see is all categories are incorporating AI technology into their performance, whether it's gaming, whether it's fintech, and using AI as a way to bring consumers into the tent has never been more popular. So the State of Mobile app also shows which categories are using these features to market themselves and to enhance the consumer experience. Thank you, everybody, for the time. Just a quick reminder, the State of Mobile report, the full report, the backbone of all of this can be found at SensorTower.com. Appreciate everything. Thank you to the AppsFlyer team.